Hello students. Today we are going to see chapter number 3 of your social science, that is movement towards the new world. The first topic is global trends between two world wars. So after the First World War, people became economically poor. That means they are financially very weak. The immediate government in powers were unsuccessful in improving these conditions because economically they were become very poor. The government which was in the power, they do not have that much money to spend on the people. That's why the government which are running immediate governments, though, so their condition was also very pathetic, and as their condition is very pathetic, they cannot improve this condition. People lost their trust in democracy. Now you all know what is democracy. It is by the people, for the people, and of the people. Dictatorship began in some countries. Dictatorship means one leader, one party, which became a driving force for Second World War. Let us study the following series of events in this respect. First is fascism in Italy. Second is Nazism in Germany. Third is militarism in Japan. And fourth is global depression, that is 1929 to 1930. Now, first of all, we will start with fascism in Italy. In the First World War, Italy was on the side of winning nations and fought for those nations. Now, ये फासिज्म जो वर्ड है वो एक इटालियन वर्ड होता है जिसका मतलब है फैसेज, विच मीन्स नथिंग बट एब्सोल्यूट कंट्रोल ओवर ऑल द थिंग्स, उसको बोलते हैं फासिज्म. ठीक है, तो फासिज्म इन इटली एब्सोल्यूट कंट्रोल हो गया सिर्फ और सिर्फ किसका? इटालियंस का, और किसी भी इंसानों को उन्होंने टच तक नहीं करने दिया. ठीक है. So let us start with our summary first of all. So fascism arose in Europe after World War One, when many people yearned for national unity and strong leadership. In Italy, Benito Mussolini used charisma to establish the powerful fascist state. Benito Mussolini coined the term fascism in 1990 to 1919 to describe his political movement. He adopted the ancient Roman fasces as his symbol. This was a bundle of road tied around an X, which is represented as the power of Rome. जैसे हर एक पार्टी का एक सिंबल होता है, वैसे ही उन्होंने भी एक सिंबल रखा, और वो सिंबल जो है पार्टी का सिंबल, वो था a bundle of sticks. ठीक है, और bundle of roads tied around an X. ठीक है, which represented the power of Rome. Then Mussolini established the first fascist regime, followed soon after by others, including Nazi in Germany. Fascism, however, differed somewhat from one nation to another. Thus, scholars often disagree on precise definition of fascism. Even so, they tend to agree on its common characteristics, such as उन्होंने क्या क्या था. तो एक था absolute power of state, then rule by a dictator, then you can say corporatism, then you can say extreme nationalism. ये सब definition है fascism की. You can also say it as superiority of nations people, militarism and imperialism. ठीक है, ये सब जो था ये होता है fascism in Italy या word fascism. Now, in the First World War, Italy was on the side of winning nations and fought for those nations. It incurred a massive expenditure. Massive expenditure means massive. उन्होंने खर्चा किया था of $12 billion, lost lives of 6 lakh soldiers. Yet the other winning nations took over the choicest territories, ignoring Italy. तो सबको अपनी अपनी choice का provinces वगैरह मिल गया, लेकिन इटली को ऐसा नहीं मिला. So Italy was very angry and frustrated. Its nationalistic feeling was hurt, for which Italians considered its government responsible, and was more than eager to avenge this national humiliation as soon as possible. तो Italians ने उसकी गवर्नमेंट को रिस्पॉन्सिबल गिनवाया और उनको रिवेंज लेने का मन था. In order to salvage Italy from such dire situation, Benito Mussolini launched the Fascist Party. He adopted a bundle of sticks and eggs, that is, a symbol of supremacy of Roman Emperor, as the symbol of his party. जैसे मैंने explain किया, Fascism has evolved from Italian word fascist, which means absolute control of state on all the things. जैसे मैंने बताया, Mussolini's maxim was one party, one leader. जैसे बीजेपी का हर एक बार वो नारा रहता है ना कि भाई अब की बार मोदी सरकार वगैरह वगैरह, वैसे ही मुसोलिनीज मैक्सिम उनका जो वो था वो क्या था, वन पार्टी वन लीडर. ही गेव मिलिट्री ट्रेनिंग टू हिज पार्टी वॉलेंटियर्स. वॉलेंटियर्स जो सामने से काम करते हैं उसको बोलते हैं हु वोर ब्लैक यूनिफॉर्म. After coming to power, Mussolini captured Rhodes and Dodonske islands from Turkey. He also won Albania, Abyssinia and Fumport in 1924. तो जैसे ही वो पावर में आ गए, ठीक है, और उनकी मिलिट्री पावर स्ट्रांग हो गई, तो he started capturing all the territories from Turkey, from Fumport, Albania, Abyssinia. Okay, after these victories, Mussolini snapped all ties with League of Nations. जो League of Nations में वो पार्ट थे, तो उन्होंने वो पार्ट का क्या कर दिया, कैंसिलेशन कर दिया, एंड जॉइन द रोम बर्लिन टोक्यो एक्सिस. दस इटली बिकेम रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर. इसलिए इटली जो था वो सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के लिए रिस्पॉन्सिबल था. नाउ सेकेंड टॉपिक इज नाजिज्म इन जर्मनी. ओके, so first of all, summary. Nazism, or you can also say it as National Socialist German Workers Party, ऐसा भी आप लोग बोल सकते हैं. So ideology propagated by Nazi party is known as Nazism. ठीक है, Nazis believed that all Jewish people should die. द आर्यन रेस इज द सुपीरियर रेस. तो उनका एक ही मोटो था कि जो ज्यूज है, ठीक है, ज्यूइश पीपल, वो सबको मर जाना चाहिए. और कौन सी रेस सबसे फर्स्ट होनी चाहिए, आर्यन रेस. ठीक है. A lot of books burned by Nazis because they thought that those books should not be read by the German population. They burned around 25,000 books, which include books from Jewish authors like Einstein and Sigmund Freud. Books of authors who are not Jewish were also burned. ठीक है, जो जूस नहीं थे फिर भी जूस के बारे में लिखा था, तो वो सारी की सारी जो थी वो सब कुछ बंद कर दिया. द स्कूल played an important role in spreading Nazism. Children were taught about Hitler and his ideologies. His birthday and anniversary of taking power were celebrated. Now, as you know, Nazism जो है वो क्या है, मैंने बताया आप लोगों को. Nationalist Social German Party. This socialist have different political beliefs. वो क्या था कि नाजिज्म वो स्टार्टेड बाय, किसने स्टार्ट किया था, तो भाई एडोल्फ हिटलर इन 1920. ठीक है, एंड लास्टेड टिल द एंड ऑफ वर्ल्ड वॉर टू इन 1945. The Holocaust stained his hands with the blood of millions of people. He caused a lot of distress to lot of people. Now, let us see how एडोल्फ हिटलर केम इनटू एक्सिस्टेंस. तो एडोल्फ हिटलर का जन्म था 20th अप्रैल 1889 को. ही was born in small Austrian town Brona am Inn, which is located in Upper Austria on German-Austrian border. He dreamed of becoming an artist, but his father did not encourage him. Hitler applied at Vienna Academy of Fine Arts after his father's death, but was rejected. His mother died shortly after he moved to Vienna. He began to develop his political views of uniting Germany and Austria. Later on, he moved Germany in year 1913. He was loyal to Germany. In 1914, World War One took place. जब वर्ल्ड वॉर वन टू प्लेस हुआ, जर्मनी नीडेड सोल्जर्स. हिटलर quickly enlisted in the army. He served in both France and Germany and was highlighted for his bravery. He was injured in a war which took place in Somme in the year 1916. Again, he got wounded in a British gas attack. While recovering जर्मनी सरेंडर, तो जब रिकवर हो रहे थे तब तक तो जर्मनी ने 1919 में क्या कर दिया था, सरेंडर कर दिया था. दिस मेड हिटलर्स एंड अदर्स एंग्री as a betrayal of the undefeated German army by Jews and socialists. Hence, he decided to go into the politics. ठीक है, तो राइज ऑफ एडल्फ हिटलर कैसा हुआ, उनका राइज कैसे हुआ, उनको जो है ना, लोग जो है उनको फरहर समझने लगे. फरहर का मतलब होता है सेवियर. Due to loss, Germany had to sign the Treaty of Versailles. The condition of Treaty of Versailles was unacceptable. However, Germany was forced to sign it. Germany lost a lot of territories and had to pay a high amount of reparations. That is, वो उनको ज्यादा से ज्यादा अमाउंट में उनको जो फाइन कहते हैं वो भरना पड़ा था. So Hitler rescinded it. Hitler was still working in the army. He was sent to report on German Workers' Party, which was later renamed as Nazi Party. Here he found people with nationalist and anti-Semitic views. He agreed with them and joined their party. Since Hitler had good public speaking skills, it helped him to rise the ranks of his new party. Hitler was famous amongst the German people due to his speeches. द पार्टी फाउंडर, ये जो नाजी पार्टी जो है उसका फाउंडर कौन था, तो एंटन ड्रेक्सलर एंड पार्टी एग्जीक्यूटिव गॉट जेलस ऑफ हिटलर एंड ट्राइड टू वीकन हिज पोजीशन बाय फॉर्मिंग एन अलायंस विथ अनदर पार्टी. Hitler resigned and agreed to rejoin only when he was given complete control. Then क्या हुआ, on 8th November about 2000 Nazis marched to the center of Munich, where they confronted the police, which resulted in the death of 16 Nazis and 4 police officers. Hitler was arrested. He was sentenced to 5 years. However, Hitler only served for 9 months. In prison, he wrote his autobiographical book Mein Kampf, which means My Battles. In his books, he expressed his political views. He also portrayed his hate for Jewish community. After its publication, Hitler's views got more exposure. Hitler became the most popular politician and leader and led the Nazi Party became the largest party in Germany with 37% votes. German President von Hindenburg made Hitler the chancellor. Hitler had dictatorial powers by March. ठीक है, अब आप लोग नाजिज्म इन जर्मनी टेक्स्ट बुक से देखेंगे. तो जर्मनी हैड लॉस्ट द फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर. इट वाज इकोनॉमिकली ruined. पेरिस पीस प्रोसेस हैज कंपेल्ड जर्मनी टू साइन द ट्रीटी ऑफ वर्सेलिस. ये हम लोग ने ऑलरेडी, मैं सब कुछ बोल चुका हूँ, रिपीट कर रहा हूँ. Germany were extremely angry with these unjust treaties. Adolf Hitler joined the National Socialist German Worker Party in 1919. This party was came to be known as Nazi Party. Nazi philosophy include nationalism and socialism. After the death of German President Hindenburg, ये याद रखना, Hitler assumed the post and established his dictatorial rule. Dictatorial rule means one leader, one party wala rule. He adopted stern and aggressive policies and led the German towards narrow nationalism. Narrow nationalism मतलब क्या? सिर्फ जर्मन ही को ही, मतलब जो जर्मन्स है वही इंसान है, बाकी सबको उसने क्या बता दिया कि उसको गिनते ही नहीं है, बाकी सब इंसान है ही नहीं. ओनली जर्मन्स आर ह्यूमंस, ऐसा उनकी वो थी, टेंडेंसी थी. जर्मन कंसिडर्ड हिटलर एज फॉरहर, दैट इज सेवियर. Nazi soldiers wore blue military uniform and stuck a red strip on their shoulders and wore a symbol of swastika. यहाँ पे उल्टा दिया है, स्वस्तिक ऐसे आता है. ठीक है. Hitler's authorization and militarist nature became obvious after coming to power. His main aim was the emergence of Germany as major power. In the name of purification of German race, his policies were targeted at exterminating Jews. जैसे मैंने बताया उनको Jews से बहुत ही problem था, Jewish people, फिर gypsies and mentally challenged people. By the end of Second World War, innumerable European Jews lost lives, which is known as Holocaust. मैंने ये भी बताया genocide. Hitler's expansionism, military action against neighboring country and policy of exterminating certain groups, मतलब snap कर लेना, छीन लेना, groups led to the Second World War and become an important reason for the same. Then next is militarism in Japan. That is your third topic. Summary, first of all. So, कैसे rise of militarism हुआ in Japan? The world depression begin in the late 1929. वो हम लोग देखेंगे, इसके बाद वाला टॉपिक है, which shattered the foundation of Taisho democracy. Japanese trade with the West was served, thus propelling Japan to create self-sufficient yen bloc in East Asia to offset new trade barriers. It destroyed the economic framework of cooperative diplomacy and eventually led to militarism of Japanese economy. तो ये जो था वो फ्रेमवर्क पूरा बिगड़ गया, पूरा फ्रेमवर्क बिगड़ जाने की वजह से क्या हुआ, ये मिलिट्रियलिज्म को इम्पोर्टेंस मिला. The center of Japanese militarism in terms of economy was heavy industrial growth. Heavy industrial growth, however, posed a problem for Japan. The depression caused the immediate collapse of many factories, mass urban employment, as an upsurge of labor strikes and widespread rural destitution. In this chaotic condition, Japan was ripe for a massive political reaction that paralleled the reaction against Weimar democracy and the rise of Nazi Party. In 1930, as the depression deepened, the Ministo, the cabinet of Prime Minister Hamaguchi, overrode the opposition of Navy General Staff and committed Japan to London Naval treaty whereby Japan again accepted the lower ratio of naval armament as compared to the United States and Great Britain. Conservatives could now blame party government for weak foreign policy as well as economic mismanagement. Accused of having enrolled on emperor's prerogative of a supreme command and betraying national security, Hamaguchi was shot and fatally wounded in November 1939, जो उनके प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे. Japan annulled the London Naval Treaty in 1934, thus participating a naval arms race with the Anglo-American powers. Then उनका जो मेन था, ठीक है, कहाँ से स्टार्ट हुआ था, आफ्टर जर्मनीज डिफीट in 1918, Western recognition of Japan as a great power was particularly compromised by rejection of Japan's proposed racial equality clause in the League of Nations Convention. Nevertheless, Japan took part in the construction of new international order to end the old diplomacy of imperialism that had led to the First World War. It thus supported the League of Nations and accepted the abrogation of Anglo-Japanese alliance in agreeing to a new system. बराबर है, वो न्यू सिस्टम को उन्होंने एक्सेप्ट किया, न्यू सिस्टम of multilateralities signed at Washington Conference of 1921-22. Japan also accepted a lower level of naval armament, जैसे बताया, that set force for Britain and United States and agree to withdraw its forces from Sancton as demanded by China. ठीक है, फिर क्या हुआ? The nation was one of the big five in the world, had shared the fruits of victory with Western democracy in World War One, and was aiming the heady conquest of democracy with its universal manhood suffrage and politics for people as well as the archaeotics. The city folk took to Western music, dance, clothing, food, frivolity, and even a few fundamentals. Okay, तो ये सब हुआ. फिर क्या हुआ था? In consequences, Japan was swept by labor strike, and in 1918 the nation world riots during which the army was called upon to restore order in some regions. The recession, which hit Japan immediately after the war, and subsequent uneven economic growth created conditions in which many social movements expand further during the 1920s, जैसे कि communism supplanted anarchisms on radical left and began to compete with moderate socialism for control of labor movement. Okay. और फिर उसका मिलिट्रियलिज्म इम्पैक्ट क्या था? तो मिलिट्रियलिज्म इम्पैक्ट ऐसा था कि in 1931 September, the government completely lost control of foreign policy when Gudong army unilaterally participated the Manchurian incident. ठीक है? This resulted in Japanese seizure of Manchuria, the formation of puppet state of Manchukuo in March 1932. मंचुको गवर्नमेंट को ले लिया था एंड जापान एक्सोडस फ्रॉम द लीग ऑफ नेशन, मतलब वहां से भी निकल गए इन फरवरी 1933 following the league censors of Japanese aggression. The Anglo-American powers and China condemned Japan as a bandit nation and refused to recognize its territorial gains. Japan, however, saw itself as a stabilizing force in East Asia. Although it stood alone, it would take the first step towards a close association with Nazi Germany when it signed the Anti-Comintern Pact in 1936. Now, अब देखो militarism in Japan की टेक्स्ट बुक से, ये मैंने आप लोगों को पूरा एडवांस में बता दिया कि क्या क्या हुआ था. ठीक है, अब देखो अकॉर्डिंग टू द ट्रीटी for sales, Japan got benefit of province of China. England and France distributed many regions of Germany between them. Japan was quite displeased with this क्योंकि उनको भी जर्मनी के पार्ट चाहिए थे. So in 1921-22, जैसे मैंने बताया, Washington meet, Japan had to agree to have only 35% of English and American naval force. Japan also had to vacate the islands of Sakhalin and Siberia. The Japanese youth was angry at this. During this time, there were elections in Japan and the party supporting militarism got the majority. The military nationalism of Japan adopted the policy of expansionism. Expansionism मतलब हर एक अपनी कॉलोनी को expand करना. ठीक है, Japan did not get a permanent place in League of Nations. The Western countries could not stop the imperialistic activities of Japan. तो फिर जैसे मैंने बताया, जापान कैप्चर्ड मंचूरिया एंड एस्टैब्लिश्ड मंचुको गवर्नमेंट 1932. Also it captured Korea, Mongolia and Shantung and some provinces of China. छोटा सा देश है जापान, ठीक है, लेकिन पावर देखो. It improves its relations with Germany and Italy and let loose its string of imperialism. After Emperor Meiji, Emperor Hirohito 1936 also encouraged these activities of Japan. Thus, Japan snapped all its ties, मतलब निकल गया, with League of Nations in 1933. Okay, and now the last topic of first part, global depression, that is 1929 to 1932. The heads of most of European nations had believed that with the end of First World War, even the post-war problems of the world will come to an end. ठीक है, तो सबको जो हेड थे सारे नेशन को, उनको ऐसा था कि जैसे ही वर्ल्ड वॉर खत्म होगा उसके साथ साथ आपका ये जो पोस्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर प्रॉब्लम होगा वो भी खत्म हो जाएगा. बट दिस प्रूव्ड रॉन्ग. Suddenly, a large number of shares began to be sold in Wall Street stock market, causing the stock market to crumble. This was called Wall Street crisis by the critics, that is 24th October 1929. This crisis shook the whole world and shattered the economic condition of the nation, giving birth to Great Global Depression. जैसे अभी चल रहा है ना, ये पूरा 2020 जैसे बोलते हैं तो उसको हम लोग डिप्रेशन, ग्लोबल डिप्रेशन बोलते हैं. मतलब क्या कि ओवरऑल मंदी आना. ठीक है, मोस्ट ऑफ द नेशंस ऑफ द वर्ल्ड वर अफेक्टेड बाय दिस. Even a superpower like Great Britain had to sacrifice its policy to keeping gold reserve against its currency bound. तो उन लोग को ने वो मुथूट फाइनेंस की तरह क्या करते थे, पैसे देते थे और गोल्ड रखते थे. लेकिन ये ग्लोबल डिप्रेशन इतना पावरफुल हो गया था, कोई वो जो उनकी जो पॉलिसी थी कीपिंग गोल्ड रिजर्व अगेंस्ट इट्स करेंसी बाउंड, वो भी बंद कर देना पड़ा. This affected the other nations of the world and international trade and industries. Prosperous nations like America also had to impose strict measure. मतलब अमेरिका जो सबसे पावरफुल है, सबसे prosperous है, उनके यहाँ पे भी मंदी आ गई. ठीक है. The global trade was reduced to half. Thus World War II started getting its outline. Outline मतलब धीरे धीरे World War II start होने ही वाला था. Now again proper explanation of global depression, which is from 1929 to 1932. ध्यान से सुनना. So, global Great Depression, worldwide economic downturn that began in 1929 and lasted until about 1939. It was the longest and most severe depression ever experienced by the industrialized Western world, sparkling the fundamental changes in economic institutions, macroeconomic policy and economic theory. Although it originated in United States, the Great Depression caused drastic declines in output, severe unemployment, and acute deflation in almost every country of the world. Its social and cultural effects were no less staggering, especially in United States, where the Great Depression represented the harshest adversity faced by Americans since the Civil War. ठीक है. उसके causes क्या थे? वो causes ऐसा थे, the banking panics and bank failures in US and elsewhere in 1930 to 33, a monumental decline in spending that generated a decline in production. Then third, decision making by US Federal Reserve that caused decline in money supply. Fourth point, excessive stock market speculated in US that resulted in the great crash of 1929. Then maintenance of international gold standard and the Smooth Folly Traffic Act and other protectionist ट्रेड पॉलिसीज, जिसकी वजह से ये क्या हुआ था, ग्लोबल डिप्रेशन ओवरऑल हो गया था. फिर डेवलपमेंट of Keynesian economics, end of international gold standards by late 1930s, expanded influence on labor unions and organized labor through legislation such as Wagner Act in US. इसके outcomes क्या क्या हुए? Implementation of New Deal in US and welfare state policies internationally. Then increased government oversight of financial market by US Securities and Exchange Commission and other new regulatory agencies. Then precipitous decline in standards of living around the world, up to 25% unemployment in the industrialized countries in the early 1930s. ठीक है. इसकी वजह से ये पूरा जो था वो क्या हो गया था, ग्लोबल डिप्रेशन हुआ था. और दिस गिव्स एन राइज टू World War II. So that was our very first session of chapter 3. हम लोग 3 या 4 सेशन लेंगे इसके. Thank you very much, students.